Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I've always wanted to give a cybersecurity keynote in dark mode, and tonight I have the opportunity to do that. So thanks, everyone, for attending either in person or virtually online. I'm really excited to share my perspective on cybersecurity, but more interestingly to me, the intersection between technology and psychology. So in framing up this keynote tonight, Crystal actually tells me that cybersecurity is one of the most topical discussion points for the ACS Education Across the Nation events. And it really got me pondering, why is this so? Why is cybersecurity so topical? Well, the reality is that hacking is a very big business. And according to the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, in the last Australian financial year, there was $33 billion in self-reported losses just from cybercrime alone. This is self-reported as well, so I would expect this number is probably triple that size because there's a sentiment in culture just not to talk about cybersecurity breaches or share that information, which I personally would like to change because I think the more transparent that we can be and the more we can share this information, the more we can learn from it. So that's from a black hat perspective when it comes to cybersecurity. If I jump over to the other side of the stage and speak about the white hat part of cybersecurity, we actually face a massive skills shortage at the moment within the region, unable to fill any job vacancies, 1.5 million of them. I am hiring at the moment too, by the way, so if anyone's looking for a job, come and chat to me afterwards. Before I dive into it, I wanted to share a little bit more about myself, and I found the most fitting picture for tonight's talk, wearing my Don't Click on Shit hoodie, also available afterwards if you would like. I need that link, Hayden. Yeah. And a few different elements and attributes that I possess, both from my perspective and from other people's perspective. Two key ones here related to cyber and key themes throughout the talk, being curiosity and thrill-seeking. As mentioned before, I served 7 years full-time in the Australian Army. I was a combat engineering officer. That capability within defence is either building things or blowing things up. And I was a diver as well, so that was either building things or blowing things up just underwater. I'm now the head of cybersecurity at EdXN Group, and I lead a fantastic team, of which some are here today, across Australia and New Zealand. And I'm really driven by two core values, which are love and curiosity. And my purpose in life really to help solve the world's biggest challenges and to help improve the human condition. So being the technologist that I am, I'm very fascinated by all things technology. And you'll hear me say this later, but I do really see technology as an advancement to humanity. Back in the day, there was an advancement which was fire. In this current modern era, it's more around software and devices. But I think that technology is moving at such a rapid pace that we're actually still working out how to interface with it, how to work with it, how to live, work and play with it. And some of these key themes will come out tonight as well. So when it comes to cybersecurity, this has been dubbed the fifth domain. Now, in an operational warfare theatre, traditionally warfare has been fought in the physical realm, either on land, on sea, in the air, and even a frontier in space. And now, with such technological advancements, we now face warfare within cyberspace. With new technologies, create new exploitations. And I really do see cybersecurity as always being in a constant state of flux because new TTPs arise, new methodologies arise, and new human thinking arises as well as to how we can exploit technology. And really at its core, this adversarial nature of the attacker versus defender is very unpredictable because at the end of the day, being emotional humans, we're also very unpredictable and different things motivate us and we're all wired very differently. This keynote as well, how you would mitigate this from happening to you is, Hayden, very simply just don't click on shit. I want to talk about the anatomy of a ransomware attack, something a little bit different to what we just saw in that use case. But again, talking about threat vectors and this adversarial action. Some really common ways hackers gain entry into a device is through phishing, password cracking, software exploitation like we just seen, and business email compromise as well. Now the outcome for this is either to influence action or to gain access and make action. Once a hacker gains access and control of your device, sky's the limit then. But usually, always in the case of ransomware, this is quite data centricity. It's either to steal data, encrypt data, or to destroy data. But again, always for the purpose of ransomware is to take money for you for financial gain and demand ransom. So typically they'll take something from you, which is usually your access, in exchange for you giving them something, which is usually always the case of financial gain for ransomware. So how do you stop phishing? Just don't check your emails. Another example is FluBot. So FluBot's very, very common at the moment in Australia. In the last few months, we've all been bombarded with these random text messages from DHL to track your shipment, click on this link, and so on and so forth. Now, what that is actually being reported by the ACCC is we've lost actually nearly $64 million to this FluBot SMS scam. Now again, the anatomy for the FluBot is really similar to what we just saw before in the use case with Hayden, is that the victim receives an SMS with a link, a malicious link in it. It causes you to click on this and open it, and then therefore it will install malicious software, so malware onto your device. And in the circumstance of FluBot, what it actually does is it accesses your mobile phone, and it will go and take all of your contact data, all of the people you know, and it will upload all of that library of information into a C2 center, a command control center. And then it will propagate that malware and infect other devices, and so you get this network effect of malicious software, and again, for the purpose of financial gain or incentivizing you to act. So how can we actually mitigate this? Some serious tips this time. Very simply, don't click on things. We have this mantra in professional cyber around zero trust, which is to never trust and to always verify. If you are subject to a compromise, doing something like a factory reset, so seeking professional advice, doing a hard reset, getting some antivirus, changing your password. I mean, the evolution of the password has sort of gone from a necessary evil into multi-factor authentication to verify your identity. And now I think the future for passwords looks like biometrics, either through your iris and your eyeball scan or a fingerprint scanner or something like that. And then finally, just to become aware around how these attacks actually work, become really curious around cybersecurity, and in particular, have the conversation around it and share the information. So when we look at threat actor motivations, try to distill this down as simply as possible. The motivations themselves, which bridge into this psychological area now, can vary and they're very dynamic. But in its simplest form, you can think about an individual actor for one way or another, whether they're an insider threat or a thrill seeker, or some organised groups like terrorist groups, and even up to the geopolitical nation-state actors, tying back to that fifth domain. So to tie that all together, those motivations vary really significantly, but we can simplify them through financial, ideological, or political. And again, adopt that zero trust mindset. But if all else fails, just don't click on anything. All right, so now we get into the technological part of the conversation. I want to give just an overview of the timeline of the internet. On the very left there, that's actually the first web page ever. It's a web page about web pages. And on the right, I think that's a few people within NextGen, a live meme. But this next slide is a bit of an eyesore, so bear with me. I've just gone ahead and circled a few really relevant parts to this, which is sort of this Internet 2.0. Now, the Internet was actually a project from an advanced research project funded by the Department of Defense for military use, and it sort of expanded, therefore. There was sort of 2.0 that came out in the 90s, then there was the rise of the mobile devices in the early 2000s. In the 2010s, we saw the explosion of things like social media. And now in the current era, we're looking at just this rapid complexity behind the Internet of Things, biotechnologies, augmented reality, and even self-driving cars. What I think is really interesting is way back then on the far left, only 1% of people of the global population was on the internet, and we had 5.5 billion people in the world. Today, we have 8 billion people in the world, and 60%, and increasing at a rapid rate, are on the internet. And this sort of relates to Moore's law, which I think I say all the time, and people in this room have heard me say it. But from the transistor, which is the hardware chip that stores data, Moore's law is fundamentally this 1 + 1 = 2, + 2 is 4, + 4 is 8, and so on. And so therefore you get this exponential effect and this rapid growth trajectory, which we see with the internet. And just to put that into context, the state of the internet in 2001 looked pretty clunky. A few web pages, MS Paint, spent a lot of time on that. Computers looked like this, and of course, the rise of social media. Now in Stanford in the late 90s, there was this field of study that emerged called Captology. And Captology was actually, how does technology change and manipulate behavior? And this is the intersection of cybersecurity that I'm increasingly interested in, which is how does technology change our psyche? How does it motivate us, and how does it influence us? If we fast forward to today, the state of the internet is vastly different. In 1 minute on the internet, there is this vast amount of data created, this data explosion. Data is the new oil, all of these type of things, but just the actual sheer volume of users online is crazy, and something like nearly $300,000 spent in 1 minute on Amazon. It's no wonder things like the flu bot are so easily able to trick us and influence and manipulate us into acting. So it makes me ponder, with such rapid technological advancements, what's next in cybersecurity? I'd like to show you a little clip now, following on from the demo, as to what we face now in the current era.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of fucked up dystopia. Thank you, and stay woke, bitches.
I'm sure Obama actually said that. So this brings me to the point around social engineering. It's a bit of a sexy part of cyber. I'm not too sure why, but perhaps it actually relates to this psychological element of cybersecurity. And so with new technologies like a deep fake, create new exploitations. What this actually does is it manifests within human weaknesses to gain access and brings that exploitation to life by manipulating or influencing people and compelling you to act. So this just makes me think, if a phishing attempt can trick somebody into transferring money because the CEO is in a rush in between meetings, how are we going to defend ourselves against deep fakes that look very, very legitimate? So when we look at the principles of influence, this is really a framework that I think we can all take away from tonight to understand how we are influenced by others and potentially how we influence others on the contrary. This framework is actually born out of the Central Intelligence Agency's spy recruitment framework, and it's based around reciprocity, authority, scarcity, consistency, likability, and social proof. And so if you look at threat actors, they really play on this authority element to influence, like, again, the CEO is asking you to transfer money, or the consistency element where, through the same threat vector like business email compromise, we're really subject to this influence and this manipulation. If I go a level deeper, we look at micro expressions. Now this is very, very interesting in psychology, which is the old iceberg theory, what's actually under the surface. But our human emotions come to life through very subtle micro expressions in the face. So you can see up here, there are quite negative emotions, but you can see by the subtleties in the eye expressions or the slight move of the lips what these micro expressions actually entail, and just, again, another human element to that psychology and the complexity when it comes to adversarial action. Now, where the world's heading, I believe it's that the future is defined by the convergence between information technology and biology. And at its simplest form, information to me really translates to knowledge. We look at the rise of artificial intelligence, our own human intelligence, but at the end of the day, it comes down to that knowledge. Technology really talks to the advancement to humanity, as we said at the start. And then biology, really, where it's going, is we're all evolving. So again, if I give another example of a technological advancement, it's a new paradigm for us, and that's also required of cybersecurity.
Starting with the most important experience of all, connecting with people. Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space. It has parts of your physical home recreated virtually, it has things that are only possible virtually, and it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful. Privacy and safety need to be built into the metaverse from day one. You'll get to decide when you want to be with other people, when you want to block someone from appearing in your space, or when you want to take a break and teleport to a private bubble to be alone. Over the last year and a half, a lot of us who work in offices have gone remote. And while I miss seeing the people I work with, I think remote work is here to stay for a lot of people. So we're going to need better tools to work together. Let's take a look at what working in the metaverse will be like. Imagine if you could be at the office without the commute. You would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space, those chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere. Now imagine that you have your perfect work setup and you can actually do more than you could in your regular work setup. And on top of all that, you can keep wearing your favorite sweatpants.
There's a ton of new tech going into Cambria. For example, your avatar will be able to make natural eye contact and reflect your facial expressions in real time. This way, people you're interacting with will have a real sense of how you're actually feeling.
But the ultimate goal here is true augmented reality glasses. And we've been working on that too. And today, I want to show you an experience that we've been working on for Project Nazare, which is the codename for our first full augmented reality glasses. Here, you'll see you're chatting with friends on WhatsApp and planning a game night. You can select a game, and then, as you walk over to your kitchen, you can easily just put your game onto the table and you're off. That's the kind of experience that augmented reality will unlock. There's a lot of technical work to get this form factor and experience right. We have to fit hologram displays, projectors, batteries, radios, custom silicon chips, cameras, speakers, sensors to map the world around you, and more into glasses that are about 5 millimeters thick. So we still have a ways to go with Nazare, but we are making good progress.
So what do we think of that? Yeah, very cool. So navigating the digital realm, so the two last slides from me tonight, some really key takeaways as to how we do navigate. Particularly, how do we keep leaning in and getting curious about technology and where this is taking us? Please become a cyber champion, whether that's personally or professionally. You're very welcome to tap into our community, into our team, and be a part of a more formal program. But I think taking cyber best practice from work even into your home, don't leave your laptop unlocked because you wouldn't leave your front door open in your home. And most importantly to me is just to harness the humanities that really do make us human and deepen our integration with technology. So lastly, the future is very exciting, and right now technology really underpins everything we do, and it does require that paradigm shift for us to really live symbiotically alongside within cyberspace. Thank you very much.